Next level.
If someone would have told me that I would be in Russia with Dinko D from Leaders of the New School doing cultural diplomacy work in the 90s, I would have laughed at it. This program allows our legends and the people who are in the forefront of what hip hop culture is doing to learn about cultural diplomacy and connect with their audience in a different way, not just in performative ways. And that's key, because sometimes we see our artists as entertainment. And Next Level, we want to harness that power and that influence that they have and show them how to use it for good. Not that they aren't, but survival. And those of you who work as artists in this environment, especially in the last 2 years, you know that it gets thin. And we want to be able to provide different opportunities and resources for artists. And when we talk about our artists that get involved with Next Level, we refer to them as artist educators. And the people that they work with, we refer to them as student collaborators. Our artist educators are the backbone of what we do. And we're always looking for sincerity. And sincerity is how we connect with people in other countries. Everyone knows how global hip hop is. However, in these communities, people see themselves as having their own lineage and having their own voice. So when we have exchanges with them, it's not top heavy. It's sit down, listen a little bit, take that information, that training that you've been doing leading up to that residency, and show people that you see them. And let's build community based on that. And that being said, I'd like to share a video of one of the most,
I'm creating because they say that life is what you make it. I'm from the South, but I don't mess with the Confederation. How you expect to rock with G. Amazawa when half of your squadron can't even handle the pronunciation? I spit fresh because every word is a gift sent, but right now I feel like a lighthouse in a shipwreck. Right now I feel like a cracked violin, a piss test, the White House juggling Mike Brown and his pin treasure. What would you give away? What would you keep for this? Is it worth it even if you never see $1 in your wallet and your darkness start creeping? In the moment you break your heart, it's gonna feel like you won't be able to breathe again. Dive into your ocean of dreams and see how deep it gets. Will you float, swim, or sinking in? I grew gills only because my brain isn't what I'm thinking with. Boy, they aborted the dreams before they even felt the fetus kick. Tell me, Diga, man, what it's like to see our pops chemo treatment went, and wonder how he taught me to pray with the same hands he beat me with. I've been paying my dues, I'm just waiting for receipts to print. I got my wolves and we just lurking where the sheep exist. Already died and we ain't trying to go extinct again. Ready to eat the rich and sink our pleading teeth in it and celebrate the rebirth of the Buddha on some Easter shit.
We need artists that can speak to other artists in ways that make sense. speaking over their heads or speaking to them in ways that are sanitized to better ourselves is how we miss them. The idea of hip hop culture coming from people who have something to say and are going to push until they are heard is not something that was just born here in the United States. And whether you call it connected marginality or whatever, people who've been through it like need you to get that. Hip hop provides that opportunity. Artist educators like G allow that, make my job easy. They make my job easy because from this honest space, we can work with them with other training initiatives that allow us to sharpen their cultural diplomacy to kids. So these are the things that we do for our artists, our artist educators, and our staff. We provide training in cultural diplomacy, professional development, performing rights, which is big with artists. They're really enjoying this. And how to be site managers. Our site managers, they go with our teams, and they are our logisticians on the ground. They do the planning visits with embassies, and they definitely make my job easy, and are the backbone of what we do, over and over again. But that training has to come from somewhere. There aren't a lot of training that's affordable for artists to be able to be a part of this public diplomacy realm. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. So, cultural diplomacy through the lens of hip hop culture, why? And I want to say, when I say why, I mean for me personally, right? Because it starts there, right? And I think that so many different hip hop artists have the things that inspire them, and that's the root of what they're doing. And I would like to go a little bit into how cultural diplomacy as a tool to cultural sustainability has served me. In 1996, I was stationed in Augusta, Georgia, and I got an opportunity to meet James Brown. I didn't perform with him. I didn't meet him like in the club. I met him at a 7-Eleven. Met him at a 7-Eleven. I saw somebody digging in the ice into the thing, and I asked him a question. I did get up the nerve to ask him a question. I asked him, what style of movement did he do before he started dancing to funk music? And he said that he was a buck dancer. I had no idea what that was. I'm a dancer. I've been dancing my whole life. So I'm like, buck dancing? Why does James Brown know what buck dancing is? And I'm from these streets and I don't know what it is, right? So I was like, okay. I asked him to explain it to me. He didn't have time. He said, look it up. So this is before the internet was on fleek. We did not have the Googles in '96. So I had to go to libraries, but more importantly, I had to go to communities, and I had to look. I had to ask questions. So where it led me was to this gentleman, William Henry Lane, aka Master Juba, is what they called him. The quick and dirty on Lane is that he was the first African American artist to headline his own minstrel shows over white artists. I know that sounds like not a big deal, but in that time, that was huge. The way that he danced was a tradition that a lot of people didn't really know about. which was called buck dancing. The reference buck meaning a male enslaved person. Women were referred to as wenches, males referred to as bucks, and they were often made to dance against each other. Buck dancing, sing, and often fight, buck fights, if you've heard that term. Not so much pejorative at the time, pretty much pejorative now, but since there's very few people still doing it, it makes it difficult to share those stories, and made it difficult for me to find it, because all the elders, all the people I knew that knew this form would not tell me what that was. And those of you who know people or who are from the African American South, you know how hard it is to get our elders to talk about the pain. And sometimes in that, although I understand, sometimes in that our traditions get lost. And they don't always get passed on. So I can say to you right now, there is maybe 15 people in the United States that publicly identify as buck dancers. So in 96, it was like almost impossible. I would not meet a buck dancer until 2008. Aljamain Hinton was someone that identified as a buck dancer. And I heard that name. Women always lead the way, don't they? I heard that name, and a lot of things opened up. At that time, I was doing a lot of work as a public folklorist, and I started to find people in the acoustic country blues world that were buck dancers. And Aljamain Hinton and I would, and her family actually, would start a relationship. But my primary mentor in buck dancing was John D. Holman. John D. Holman was a National Heritage Fellow and my dear friend. I miss him. And he was our elder, and the last of acoustic country blues men that dance as well. So he sang, played strings, and he got down. That was unique. And since his death last year, the work that we have been doing together for the best part of 10 years is starting to materialize. We worked with him, and with my nonprofit, we worked with him to document his story in ways that were agreeable to him. And that led us to a whole world of acoustic country blues artists and movers. And we would partner also with Aljamain Hinton's son, Williette Hinton, after she passed away. And all of this work was done with the assistance of my good friend Rebecca Conway, through something that we call the Collaborators Code. And I won't get too much into this code, but these were some of the rules that we set for ourselves as we're doing that work in communities. And I say this, I want to say this, and I don't want to be preachy, but I think it's important to say that allowed me to be able to go back and get it in the spirit of Sankofa, and learning how to buck dance, and also learning how to play the instruments from amazing artists like National Heritage Fellow Phil Williams.
Okay, well, my name is Phil Wiggins, and I play, I guess what you would call country style blues harmonica, and I make up songs. Well, let's see, I started, I've always been around music, always loved music, always wanted to express myself in that way. I think mainly the style that developed among Africans, African Americans, the cross harp style developed because using the cross harp style and using mainly the draw notes of the harmonica, you can do what's called bending the notes, which is what lets the harmonica imitate your human voice and to be very emotional, the way your voice can be, into slur notes and all. Well, I teach other people because people taught me, and the people that taught me, Archie Edwards, I think of, John Cephas, John Jackson, Chief Ellis. I mean, these are people like John Jackson really was the first acoustic blues player that I met in high school. He was so down to earth and generous, and he was happy that whenever anyone was interested, curious enough to want to learn anything that he could show them. And so having learned from people like that and been around people like that, I mean, they kind of not only passed on their knowledge, but passed on their openness and their generosity, habit of generosity, to me at least. So.
My name is Junius Brickhouse. I'm a dancer, choreographer, aspiring producer. When I was young, right out of high school, I joined the Army, and the Army took me to a lot of foreign places. Being out in the world as an adult, I realized how much I did not really know about the history, the music, and the dances that my grandparents and their parents did, when they were children. So I grew up learning different forms of urban dance, like hip hop, b-boying, b-girling, breaking, popping, locking. These types of things is what I grew up doing. Being away and being around places and talking the thing, and it just kind of helped me relax and calm down. It kind of helped me to develop this love for tradition. And this respect for people who are tradition bearers. And that same idea I try to further in my dance career. So when we look at the blues, we're looking at the beginning, of what we do as urban dance culturalists. Having several conversations with some people at the Maryland State Arts Council, they talked to me about Phil, and I was like, I looked him up, and I watched him play, and I was just floored. I was like, wow, that's amazing. But sometimes when he's playing, I just want to be a spectator. I'm just in awe. I just sit there and go, man, I'm supposed to do that. Like when? When is that supposed to happen? It's an opportunity to honor and pay respect to people who keep this tradition going and have made such a huge contribution like he has. Honor them with my time, or with my respect, and hopefully with a gift, that came from them. And so that's why.
Phil and I are thick as thieves. He brought me into his band, and I dance. He won't let me play yet. He's hating on my skill set. No, he's amazing, and I couldn't outplay him if I tried. But for me, I'm just honored to be able to share space with our elders. And for me, this is why. As a hip hop artist, I had to ask myself, who am I? Where am I from? What are the traditions that come before me here in the United States and beyond? You know, that's my work to do, but that also helps me inform people in global communities, give them a little bit more information, right? When we also have a thing called Next Level Global, where we select 2 artists from each country we go to every year, and we bring them here to the United States, and we spend time in North Carolina, DC, and in New York City. I'm working on some of those same initiatives, and we provide them a grant to do some inspiring work back home. But one thing that I do when those people come here and they ask me about what's the root of hip hop, explain to me the struggle. And I take them to historic Stagville in Durham, North Carolina. My ancestors slaved that land. If you want to understand the struggle, don't look at the things that are right in front of you. Take a deep dive. Try to understand. And the reason why in the world through hip hop culture, so many. I can't think of a place that I've been, from Myanmar to Central African Republic to the Congo, that like I couldn't shout out a hip hop song and somebody else finish it, because it is that global. So that means that we're connected in some ways. And when that connection is disrupted, we're back to this thing about cultural sustainability. We're disrupting something, and we're making it difficult for it to exist. When several of my students found out that I would be speaking here, they had a couple of mutual students and friends call me and ask me to do interviews with them so I could share some of their stories. I have friends and crewmates in Russia and in Ukraine at the moment, and some of them are deceased now. Some of them are missing, and some of them have been disrupted in the kind of way that art doesn't matter anymore, and cultural identity doesn't matter anymore. They're simply trying to survive. I'd like to share a couple of those with you, if you don't mind. The first artist is a gentleman by the name of Nicky Pop. He is the student of Next Level Artist Educator alumni, Ryan Webb, who is also an ET.
Hi, my name is Nikita Dudkin, aka Nicky Pop. I've been dancing more than 10 years. I'm from Ukraine, Kiev, currently in Lviv, Ukraine. And I want to say a couple of words about my way of studying, my perspective in it, and my way of sharing it and expressing my artistry as well. So in 2016, on an event called Just Debout in Paris, I met for the first time Ryan Future Webb, who became my first teacher in style called strutting. He showed us some knowledge as a filmer, steps, basic routines and strutting to me and my teacher Ozon, and we were amazed by how clean the style, how is it confident, how it makes other styles that you already have more cleaner, yeah. And after a couple of months of researching names that Future gave from Bay Area, I was watching a lot of videos and swinging my arms, trying to get more deep into this rabbit hole. I met in 2017 Money B, Brian Moreno from Bay Area, from Playboys Inc., and he took me to the fame of Playboys Inc. and gave me also some knowledge, some correction to my way, and I was able to mix more my styles that I have before, like waving, animation, popping with strutting together, and becoming more, I would say, becoming more me, becoming more confident in what I was doing, what I was trying to express through my mechanics and my feel of the music, especially electro music like electro funk. So as far as I went through the style, I was always in touch with Future, also with his system of book of styles, of learning different multi styles, moves, ways of expression, mechanical moves, and being able to mix it up. Then I was visiting a lot of events that has this kind of like separation, but also welcoming the mixing of the mixture of the styles, strutting, popping, waving, animation. So I was really impressed how my way was changing, becoming more clean because of strutting, because I was in touch with the traditional ways of moving and strutting, with soul, with old school funk, with also some like music like James Brown, yeah. And yeah, like I was trying to get my perspectives from it, and also trying to share this knowledge with Ukrainian dancers, Ukrainian movers. It was really fun with especially kids who have this like clean mind, not with a lot of moves already, but to basically more having fun with them, building some easygoing routines, showing them some mechanical movements like original robot movements from Bay Area, and also trying to build more in events and jams here locally in Eastern Europe, to travel there and seeing dancers like poppers, to open them some more knowledge about strutting. So my process in learning like different styles and being multidisciplinary is like my way. A really multidisciplinary dancer in popping movement, in mechanical movement, and I'm trying to get in everything that I can, especially in these hard times for Ukraine, where I'm right now, to be able to learn online. Also meeting some other dancers, staying in touch with people like Future and other teachers overseas, and yeah, dreaming to come to US as well. So I hope the work gonna finish soon, and I will be able to do it, to learn personally from people, from OGs in this beautiful dance, this beautiful African Black American culture. And yeah, I'm really thankful that it gives me a lot of tools to express my feelings, expressing my position, my thoughts about what is around me, about what I have inside. Yeah, and all being said, that like I'm still in Ukraine, and I wish that more people will speak about the situation here, to like to make it end soon. Yeah, we don't need any war here. So I also have fund in my Instagram. You can check Nicky Pop official, carrying some mission, like deal for my people on volunteering in war zones to get a car for them. Also, you can ask any locals we have here in Ukraine, you can chat them and ask their situation because many of them have no basic needs, like they don't have some things that can cover their basic needs, so you always can help, like financially, also informational war is still going on, so just use your art, use your social medias, use your language of art of your body to talk about situations that touch a lot of beautiful souls right here. Peace.
This this video was edited a bit to he asked me to remove some of the things that he said. He got pretty upset at one point and needed to take a break and come back. But I wanted to share this video because it shows the dedication, you know, that this young person has to these art forms that are from here in the United States, and the passion that he has, and the dedication, that what he's dedicating and what he's given of himself to. And it says something huge about the power of hip-hop culture. The next interview is from Katya, who is a good friend of mine. She asked me, and one of my students, she asked me not to give her full name, and as you can understand there are consequences for people inside of Russia who are speaking too freely.
I consider myself being carrier and representative of hip-hop culture. In the dance community, I dance, I'm an active dancer, teacher, and I also organize events at the moment in Russia and in the past in Switzerland. Besides the hip-hop culture, this was like 2006. I just entered the university, and what was really
law enforcement and an artist. Can you talk more about the conflict transformation piece?
Yes. So the idea that we can resolve conflict is just wrong in most cases, right? But the idea that if we can take a conflict and move it a little bit closer to better, a little bit closer to understanding, we can transform it just a little bit, that is more realistic and attainable for most of us. There's no way, we had a residency that was supposed to happen in Israel and in Palestine, and because of obvious reasons, and I think it was literally a couple months, we had the planning visit a couple months after, at the time, President Trump had announced moving the embassy, and all of our partners decided that they couldn't be seen working with each other. So we didn't get to do a residency there. Even though we had people who were willing to work, they couldn't do it publicly. And being able to create opportunities so that those people can still get together outside of the purview would have been transformation. Like, now we can do hip hop culture and help people to mend some of their other differences in ways that make sense to them. Those things you can't put on the internet, you know, and you definitely can't put it in a brief. This is what's important for us, not the end solution, not the outcome, the process. We can transform conflict if we concentrate on it, if we allow it to be honest and not politicize it. For me, what that means is that, frankly, I know the consequences of the absence of peace. I know what it does to people. I know the death that it brings. I've served in several war zones as a soldier, as a civilian, and I got the scars to show it, physical and mental. And Guru was grounded in something that wasn't performative and wasn't about what I could get. You know, we've all seen the poverty porn. We've all seen it. And we need to get away from that. You know, connecting with people with something honest that you feel good about. And that they can go into that legacy, that lineage with you. And as you could tell, both Nikki and Katya felt that. They feel like they are not just a part of hip hop culture, but a part of my life and a part of my elders' existence. So when they speak about it, that's together with their ancestors. So that idea of global family is made more possible through understanding of self.
That was very moving, and I just said, it has made me an active citizen.
Yeah, that's
the most
powerful.
threatening thing.
Thank you so much for this very moving presentation. I'm from Chicago, and I'm just wondering, do you ever take the work that you're doing internationally on a national level, like visiting cities and doing any conflict resolution in cities like Chicago or LA?
Yes, ma'am. We try. Urban Artistry, which is here, a 501c3 here in Maryland, actually, in Silver Spring. We have recently been awarded a grant from the Library of Congress to do just that in different cities, and we'll be in Chicago exploring and documenting house music and movement culture
Oh,
in that city and in 5 other cities in the United States. So we try to find funding.
I have 2 questions. One is that I really want to learn about these different forms, because in my work, in theater work, we are sort of separated by form sometimes. And when she was saying that, you know, the breaking and the different and the whacking, and then he was talking about the strutting, is there a place for an uneducated person to learn about these forms? Or should I just Google it? Because it's a vocabulary I need to know more about. That's my first question.
I'm more than glad to help.
Oh, thank
Please do
you.
send me
Okay.
an email and I can point you in the right direction.
Great.
In our organization, that's what we do. We have our own brick and mortar
Great.
and we're teaching these forms and the histories behind them.
Thank you so much. And I have another favor to ask you, which is that I'm a drama and dance therapist, and I work in Palestine, and right now, because of COVID, all on Zoom, and I teach mostly teachers and social workers, drama therapy, art therapy, music therapy, and dance therapy, but I wonder if anyone from your organization could come and speak to my students who would be they're in a refugee camp outside of Hebron, and I would love to bring, if you can't get there physically, if somebody would Zoom, they would just be so inspired and enlightened by what you do.
Sure, I'm glad to help.
Thank you. So that's where I reach you.
Yes, ma'am?
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I am very inspired to hear you speak and show this work. I feel a bit nervous asking this question, so I hope that I can articulate it well. I am Armenian, and there's a lot of history of conflict transformation and transgenerational trauma with neighboring countries. And when the most recent war happened with Azerbaijan in 2020 over this disputed area of Nagorno-Karabakh, it was a lot to process. And I myself work as a community engagement specialist currently in Somali context and using art-based approaches to contribute or to try to contribute to social cohesion and conflict transformation or resolving tensions. And when this war happened in my reality, I didn't know what to do or how to use my skills or my creativity or even my connections with Armenian artists, local and diaspora, to respond. It felt like this kind of like frozen space and just a lot of fear. And all of a sudden it was about existence and feeling this threat to your own existence, not just like your life being disrupted, but this fear of your nation's existence because it has happened, and then fear that it can happen again, which was also the first time ever I experienced what transgenerational trauma is. Before I read a lot about it, I studied it, but I never knew I had it in me until I experienced. When the first war with Azerbaijan happened, I was a little kid, and I have memories of this. I have memories of my parents not having jobs and having to move to Moscow to survive, and how we didn't have electricity or water or gas or all these things. So I have memories of it. And when the second one happened when I'm an adult, again, it was this part of, I don't know what to do, and I felt just incapable of anything. And what you said about, you know, that the word disrupts in a way that art doesn't matter, or cultural identity, in a moment like you don't even know how to approach it, and it was very confusing. And also in that moment I felt this need of going back into history and trying to relearn my own history and my own roots and ask more questions to try to be objective in a situation where I inherently am biased, you know, because you can't really escape it. It's there, it's in your reality, but I'm trying, and that was also very confusing. And eventually, with some Armenian artists, and this was also 2020, October, November, so the COVID was at a height, we couldn't meet in person, it was all done on Zoom, but we managed to do this series of online creative workshops, which we called Otherland, trying to refer to the space of Nagorno-Karabakh as motherland, but otherland, what does it mean for both sides? And reflecting on identity and belonging, which we felt as artists, but also as Armenians, were very deep in this conflict. And as we talked over Zoom once a week as the war was happening, we constantly talked how we would like to include Azerbaijani artists in our conversations and to even do this work together. But there was a lot of fear, and we didn't know how in that moment we can approach or where that conversation would start. Because there was 30 years of conflict transformation activities that have been carried out in Georgia by the UN, by the European Union, by different countries, the Minsk group and so on. And so there was this fear, like not knowing how to approach an artist of that or what that conversation would look like. I guess it's part of me sharing these thoughts that came to me as you were presenting this and things that I was, again, thinking and trying to process in me, but also asking you for an advice. How do you navigate in these projects? Or now there was a Ukrainian and a Russian, and again, like it's that first contact, that first moment to overcome that fear between artists and overcome certain emotions, to be able to have that conversation and then create together, just in terms of the process, that first moments, because I feel comfortable doing it in other spaces and countries, but when it's my own, I felt frozen.
I think one of the things that helps me is that I remove all government history away from my interaction, and I try to start on a very basic human level, and I don't hold back the emotions. If people see that I'm struggling, then maybe it's okay for them to let down a little bit. I just try to keep it respectful, and I just allow honesty to happen. And because after that, now we can get into something. Now I know what I'm dealing with. Now I know who I'm talking to, and now we've started with honesty. That's what I do, and I know when to walk away. I know when it's just not a good place to create art or a connection. And I just put a pin in it, put a marker on it, say let's come back to this later, respectfully. You know, it's not a for sure formula, like it doesn't always work, you know, but if you concentrate on the long game, you know, in the process instead of the outcome, there's so much information in there, there's so much learning to be done. And I would concentrate on that. I think that's where I'm at most of the time. Even with our programming at Next Level, we're about the process, you know, what we're generating from students, and what students are telling us, and what we're able to learn, you know, from them comes in that process. It's not in the final performances. It's not even on the plane ride, you know, when they come here to the United States. You know, it's It's when we're in those classrooms with them, or we're eating lunch somewhere, you know, and the little things that matter. I start to appreciate those things, you know, and all the things that are wrong, like, or all those things that bring conflict, slowly start to fade for me.